Hello and welcome, everyone. This is the Tyk Office Hours. I am Buddha, product evangelist at Tyk, and I'm going to be hosting this session. The purpose of these office hours is really to answer your frequently asked questions, which will help you to make the choice of whether Tyk Cloud or Tyk is the right product for you and your stack as well. Today, we're going to be looking at a specific segment of Tyk, which is going to be Tyk Cloud, and we're going to be looking at enabling API-led product growth with Tyk Cloud. Joining me today in this quest is Jamie, who is our Senior Product Manager for all things Tyk Cloud. So hello and welcome, Jamie. It's really good to have you with us.
Hi there, Buddha. Good to be here.
Awesome. And of course, joining us, the one and only Andy Smith, who is our solutions architect here at Tyk and has worked quite closely with the product as well as being customer facing, has got some of those responses from the customers directly. So hello and welcome, Andy. Good to have you. Diving straight in, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking a little bit about product growth. And I thought I would set the scene a little bit where just defining what product growth means. For businesses, product growth typically tends to be tied with increased revenue. That's kind of what we are trying to focus as a business. That's kind of the purpose of why you exist. And when we talk about increased revenue and product growth, a lot of times that means whether you're looking at, perhaps you're looking at new product offering, you might be looking at expanding to across new regions, you're looking at new distribution channels that you might be exploring. Now, with that, obviously, that's all well and good, but at the same time, there might be challenges associated with this, which is what brings us to the pain points of growth. The growing pains here is essentially when you're looking at expanding your product, you're looking at new lines coming in, new segments coming in, new regions to be tackled, new regions to be monitored. You're probably looking at more resources. Now, these could be human resources, which is what the second point is, where you're looking at larger teams to manage those new changes that are coming up. But equally, you might be looking at resources from an infrastructure point of view, where you need to have larger scale of infrastructure to be able to manage the kind of scale that's coming in for your product, whether that is for, again, newer regions or new distribution channels. You will have larger things, more things to manage on a more ongoing basis, which leads us into higher total cost of ownership, which is obviously the big challenge here, where you're looking to grow. And obviously, if your revenue demands that, then that's obviously your return on investment can tackle some of those things. But ultimately, your objective when you're looking at that growth, that increased revenue, you're trying to look and manage that total cost of ownership as much as possible. Now, with all of that being said, we have our solution. Now, Tyk, as a solution in itself, is an API management platform. It's a cloud-native API management platform that enables you to build, to manage your APIs and API products in a secure, scalable, and stable manner. And as part of that, we've got our open source API gateway that is essentially the brains behind the operation, all the computation, pretty much all things API management tends to happen there. You've got the Tyk dashboard, which is essentially a graphic user interface that enables you to interact with the capabilities of the API gateway that we've got. And then we've got the Tyk developer portal, which enables you to publish and catalog your APIs for consumption by third-party developers or partners who might be building applications on top of the APIs that you are providing. So that, in essence, is what Tyk is all about. And as part of that, as part of one of the offerings that we have at Tyk is Tyk Cloud. So Tyk Cloud is a flexible and scalable SaaS offering. It enables you to run your full lifecycle API management platform across multiple regions, across different regions, without the need for managing any infrastructure. So that ties us back to some of the key issues that we were looking at from a growing pains point of view. And that brings us to some of the key benefits almost of Tyk Cloud, key things that we're addressing with Tyk Cloud, which is obviously reduce total cost of ownership, because you don't really need to have an entire end-to-end infrastructural setup that then needs to be managed, that then needs to be maintained on an ongoing basis. You might need to have different teams that then have to come in to actually do that for you. And again, takes some of that attention away from actually focusing on the business needs or the business requirements, the business logic of your application. Now, in some cases, that might be required because you might want to have a degree of control, a level of control that you may not get with a SaaS solution like Tyk Cloud. But in a lot of cases, when you're looking at reduced total cost of ownership, Tyk Cloud would be your solution. Second, we've got Tyk Cloud as an easy to scale solution for you because your needs on an ongoing basis, once again, might be changing, whether that is over a few months, quarter, or years. Your needs are likely to change, and your user base and user requirements might change equally, and that would mean that you might need to switch up and down between how your solution has been set up. So what we enable is we enable you to switch between plans depending on your usage requirements in a very, very simplified manner, which is what you would need once again. Going back again from a cost perspective, this is again one of those things where you can scale when you want, you can scale down perhaps when you do not require that. Moving ahead, we've got faster time to value. This is essentially all contributing towards this essential element, which is faster time to value, where again, you're focusing on your business needs, you're focusing on your users, and you're focusing on providing value to those users. You're building your applications faster, you're going to market a lot quicker, and therefore your business has an opportunity to try new things, to actually grow really, really quickly, and then having the benefit, providing that benefit and value to your end users, and then benefiting from that as a business. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a sense of where Tyk Cloud comes into the picture and how that can enable you, how that can benefit you as a business, especially when we are talking about business growth. Now, if you just look a little bit about the different deployment strategies that we've got at Tyk, and obviously we are focusing on Tyk Cloud today, but there are a few different areas, a few different ways in which you can deploy Tyk Cloud. On the left-hand side, as I like to call it, this is the control end of the spectrum, where you're really having your self-managed solution, which enables you to have full control, end-to-end control over your infrastructure, the way you would deploy it, the way you would configure it. It's all on you. It's all based on your own requirements and the way you want to manage it yourself. So you've got all of these different components, all of the different things, all of these different parts of Tyk that you have total control over from an infrastructure point of view. Obvious downside there is that with that great control comes great responsibility of actually managing all of that on an ongoing basis. You have to maintain that. You might have to, make sure that the security of that infrastructure has been taken care of. You've got to make sure things like compliances and all of that is essentially your own responsibility. So you do get a lot of control there, but you do have to do a lot of other things outside of looking at that, at your business requirements and meeting those. Then you've got hybrid as we move a little bit closer to the other end of the spectrum, the convenience spectrum, as I like to call it, the convenience end of the spectrum, where you've got Tyk Cloud at this end, where what Tyk Cloud enables you is that level of convenience where you are getting up and running really, really quickly and focusing on your overall application offering, your overall API products themselves, as opposed to having to get in the nitty-gritty of your infrastructure management, whether that's set up or on an ongoing basis to maintain it. Hybrid is kind of our middle child, so to speak, but it is encompassing the best of both worlds, where you do have that option of Tyk Cloud or managed solution for your control plane, your management layer, which essentially manages your locally deployed API gateways that you have total control over in terms of management. We'll probably talk about the hybrid cloud gateway a little bit later, a different session. We recently did a Tyk 101 on this. So if you want to get up and running with this, do watch that video. It'll give you a really good sense of how easy it is to actually get up and running with Tyk's hybrid cloud solution. But today we are focusing on Tyk Cloud, and really the thing that you need to know is it enables you to get to that time to value, faster time to value, get to that the ultimate objective of building out this product a lot quicker than some of the other offerings. So with that said, perhaps we can start going into some of the questions that we have gotten. So we've got some questions that we've gotten before the session started. So we are going to go through that line slowly with our experts here today. And perhaps I'm going to take a stab on some of those. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing perhaps for now. And over to our panelists. I'm going to head over to perhaps Andy first. And I think, Andy, the curious questions that a lot of people do have is around, what are some of the challenges that you might have seen come across from customers where, they've come up with a specific requirement and then, Tyk Cloud has sort of helped, or Tyk in general has helped out with that problem, or specifically perhaps Tyk Cloud in this case. So business-facing client requirements, what are they usually that people come to you for?
Yeah, so more often than not, it boils down to something you've already mentioned, total cost of ownership. So it might be an organization has taken a look at Tyk, they like what they see, but perhaps they don't have expertise in one of the databases that we require, perhaps. It might be that they're running a very tight, a very small DevOps team. They just simply can't accommodate the time that they would need to expend on running a self-managed Tyk installation. So it's usually one of those two flavors of TCO: lack of human resource or lack of expertise in a particular technology that they would need.
Perfect. I think from a broader perspective as well, I think with Tyk, a lot of times we see the key requirements why people look at Tyk is things like security. We've got a whole lot of APIs. We want to make sure that the security of those APIs is taken care of. And a case in point for that, I think we were looking at some of the case studies around folks who have been using Tyk Cloud for a while now. And we were looking at Modular, who are in the fintech financial services space. And one of their key requirements was obviously they've got a whole lot of different APIs that they need to manage. But the key requirement there is to do that in the most secure manner, as secure a manner as possible. And that's why they went ahead and chose Tyk. I believe they're using Tyk's hybrid cloud solution at this point. But the key thing there is they initially started off with a homegrown solution and they outgrew it over a period of time and then looked at getting Tyk as the key thing that will enable a degree of stability for their APIs, as well as bringing in a whole lot of security that is a key essential requirement when we talk about the financial service or any regulated industry for that matter.
And I think, but if I can interrupt you, in terms of the benefits of Tyk Cloud, that's certainly something that is different for us, is that we offer those three options: the self-hosted, the hybrid, and the pure cloud installation, and offer the ability to chop and change like you're talking about. Not all of our competitors offer all three of those options, and I think that is something that sets us apart.
Absolutely agreed on that. And that is not even counting our open source gateway, actually. So without going overly salesy about this, but this is office hours, by the way. So, it is going to get a little bit specific to the product. But beyond just the self-managed and the cloud and the hybrid gateways, we do have our open source gateway that you can use straight away with that at no cost whatsoever as a reverse proxy. Add in security if you want. There are capabilities that are out there. All of our offerings that you just saw, whether that is Tyk Cloud, whether that is our enterprise on-premise or self-managed solution, all of that is powered by the same open source gateway. There are no differences between the gateway that is powering our open source product and our paid product. So that is the confidence that we have in the product that we have. And that's something that it is open for you to try out at any point of time without having to sign up with us or do anything whatsoever. You can try it out at any point if you want. So
it's also on a related point, actually, the control plane that you would get in Tyk Cloud, which includes a dashboard, sometimes known as an API manager, and a developer portal. It's exactly the same as what our customers that choose to go the self-managed route would get. Same products, which does mean that when you actually, if you want to go migrate from ground to cloud or cloud to ground, since they're the same products, then that's actually enabling that seamless migration.
And that's exactly, so you answered a question that I think I was thinking about already, which is, how easy or difficult it might be to migrate between offerings, because, again, changing requirements, I think for a business that is quite critical. How do you evolve as your requirements change? And sometimes your requirements might be that, okay, we are starting off really quickly with Tyk Cloud because, right now we've got a small team. We want to keep our overall cost of ownership low. We want to make sure that our APIs are secure and available in the best possible way. And we want to scale up and down really quickly. But then at some point, maybe they come to a situation where they have to expand out to different regions. And Tyk Cloud, while it's incredible, it does have its limitation in terms of the regions that we are offering at this point of time out of the box. We do have 5 regions, I believe. Jamie, you could correct me if I'm wrong. We have 5 regions at this point, which we are offering. we have 2 in the US, one East Coast, one West Coast. We've got 1 in the UK. We've got 1 in Germany. We've got 1 in Singapore. So that's the 5 different regions that we've got. If those regions meet your requirements, once again, that is fantastic. We don't have any specific constraints from a geography perspective. Fantastic. But you may come to a point where you might be moving out onto a region or expanding into a region where these 5 aren't covering it yet. So that's where you could either go the hybrid route, where you do have that option of deploying your gateway in a region of your choosing, in a data center of your choosing, in a cloud provider of your choosing as well. So you can do that and connect that very easily with our control plane. And it can work very seamlessly with any of the managed gateways that you may have in any of these 5 different regions, or together with these locally hosted gateways as well. Or if you're going completely different and suddenly there is a compliance requirement that has come in where your solution really must be hosted on premise, or needs to be hosted in a very, very specific environment that cannot have any connection to the outside world whatsoever. We've had those situations, especially in APAC. We've seen that quite regularly. And in those cases, you might have to switch out to, say, an on-premise or a self-managed solution. And in that case, that's what I think, Andy, with you mentioning how easy it would be to switch between products, I think that gives a lot of peace of mind to a lot of business owners, because they don't want to invest a whole bunch of money in one product, and then the next day when their requirements change, have to rip it all apart and start from scratch, and again having to make a whole lot of investment. And again, the cycle could go the other way as well, where you start off with a much more constrained environment, then move towards something that is a little bit more scale friendly, perhaps with Tyk Cloud. So it's that option, that choice, that peace of mind that is really, really beneficial for a lot of businesses. And hopefully that'll enable you, that'll be one of the things that that tips the scale towards Tyk Cloud or Tyk in general.
Not to belabor the point, but it's also not either or as well. So you could deploy some gateways in the Tyk Cloud. You could deploy some gateways on premise and have that mix. So right. We don't restrict you to one deployment method or the other. It's very flexible.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Flexibility is very much built into Tyk's DNA. So I think anything that we build, any feature, any new capability that we're thinking of, any kind of offering that we're thinking of, I think flexibility is quite critical to us. We want to make sure, once again, that we meet your requirements. And while we do go specific with certain things, we have that ability to even, from an API management platform perspective, we've got that extendability in terms of capability itself, as well as that extendability in terms of how you're going to be hosting your solution as well. So really good. So hopefully that again gives those initial responses in terms of some of the pain points that we are addressing, some of the key things that as a business, as a growing business, you would be concerned about, especially when it comes to cost, especially when it comes to resources, especially when you've got a smaller team to operate with. Tyk Cloud can be a phenomenal solution for you. So with that, let's move on to the next question. That is, I think we alluded to this a little bit earlier, and I think the question here is about security. So we get asked this question quite a lot. So it's not about, obviously, we are providing security to our APIs and your API products, but how secure is our own product? And specifically here, when we talk about Tyk Cloud, where we are taking responsibility and you're not really looking at configuring and managing things yourself, then Tyk Cloud, you need to have that faith and trust that, we've got things done. So to once again put you at ease and give you that peace of mind, we've got a whole range of things that we do when it comes to making sure that Tyk Cloud is a secure solution for our customers. So there are a few different steps. I think the simplest thing, just to go a little bit under the hood, right now, Tyk Cloud is hosted in AWS's environment. So obviously that has certain security capabilities built into it, but we are not reliant on that entirely because we've got our own security hardening methodologies that we've put in place. We are constantly and continuously monitoring for security threats. We are testing for those security threats. There are third parties who are conducting penetration testing, that is essentially making sure that we are not having any kind of vulnerability. And if there are, we are addressing them immediately as a priority. So that's kind of the key things in terms of security hardening, testing. Then just thinking about compliances as well. We are SOC 2 compliant. We're also ISO 27001 compliant as well. So a lot of those compliances that we've got in place are also as part of those compliance requirements, compliance certifications is also a big element of security that comes in. We are looked at from a lot of different areas, and security is one of the things that being up to a specific standard enables us to be certified in these specific areas. So compliance requirements from those areas, we've got those covered for you as well. So again, this was a question that came up a little bit later as well, whether we are compliant and what kind of compliances we have in place. We've got these 2 compliances in place. So as a business, if that is something that you are really, really curious about, that is something that is a requirement for you, we've got you covered there as well. Beyond this, when we talk about security, we've got firewalls in terms of deployment. So anytime you're looking at deploying your application across different environments, those environments are siloed away. So things that you're deploying in one environment is not getting it's not affecting any of your other environments that you may have within your organization across your different teams. So we've made sure that silo is in place. So one misconfig on one system is not going to affect your system. So that's kind of what we've got in place. Beyond that, there is also the ability for you to deploy plugins as well on Tyk Cloud. So those plugins are also built in such a way that, or rather the deployment process of those plugins are built in such a way that they are sandboxed, and therefore any third-party plugins that are being uploaded through Tyk Cloud, once again, is not going to affect other users, other teams, other environments. And that's kind of how we have built the system as well. So those are kind of the basics I think I've covered in terms of the security that we've got in place. If you want to go even deeper, we've got the full certification, full SOC 2 compliance report that you can go over, how we've done, how we performed. We did well, as a spoiler alert. So if you want to go a little bit deeper, then we've got all of the documentation available for you, just to put you at ease. So Jamie, did I miss anything over there?
No, I mean, you've covered it very well. We, of course, have application level security, so RBACs and access control list and so on. I think it's also important, you mentioned third-party pen tests, which we regularly conduct. We're also part of some bug bounty programs. Yep. So we don't just rely on what we've built, we're actively looking for vulnerabilities and issues with the service to make sure that it remains secure as well.
Perfect. The follow-up question to this, I think what we've got here is the question around SLAs. And I think obviously with cloud services, with SaaS products, usually SLAs become quite important because once again, you're not the ones who are managing infrastructure. We are the ones who are doing that. So the SLAs, again, we've got back-to-back SLAs with AWS as infrastructure from an infrastructure point of view. But a lot of the SLAs are essentially part of the package, the plan that you are going to be involved in. So maybe this might be an opportunity for us to look at the plans that we have, and that might give you, again, a sense of what we have to offer from a Tyk Cloud perspective. We've got different kinds of plans that are out there, which are meant to meet your differing needs. So as an organization, as a business, you get to start off with your free trial. This is a five-week trial for you to run your proof of concept, be happy with the product, try it out, let us know what's working, what's not working. Ideally, we want to keep things as self-service as possible, but if you've got any trouble at any point of time, we are always available for you. But that's where you start off, a 5-week trial for you to try things out. And we've got most of the capabilities unlocked for you to try things out to the best possible standard as much as possible there. Then we move on to our paid plans, where we start off with Launch. And again, Launch is our first tier at the moment for our paid product. where it's recommended for single teams with slightly lower traffic. Again, the definition of lower traffic might differ for you. For you, it might be on the higher side, but we are looking at, on a monthly basis with these, we are looking at about 15 million API calls to be managed here with a 150 gig throughput per month. So maybe that is the requirement that you're going for. Beyond this, we're going to the Grow plan, which is kind of more for single teams, but with higher traffic. We are, like you can see, we've got 15 million to 100 million requests over there. We've got 1 terabyte worth of throughput that's available. So we're kind of expanding that out a little bit more for you to make sure that this is meeting the requirements that you want. This is also the tier at Grow where you've got your hybrid gateway add-ons that start coming in. You've got a few more RBAC add-ons that come in. So, this is kind of the tier where, as an expanding team, this might be quite an interesting choice for you. But again, it really is flexible enough to meet your differing needs. Finally, we've got our scale plan where we are looking at global organization across multiple teams that you might be interacting with Tyk Cloud and looking to manage API calls in the billions. You're looking at 10 terabytes potentially of your throughput that you are going to be managing across those teams. The final plan here is the enterprise plan, which is a completely customized plan. In case none of these meet your requirements, you need something very, very specialized, and requirements are even higher than what you've got planned for you, then this is going to be the go-to for you, and we will be happy to customize in any which way that you want. Now, if you look at the bottom of this, you've got the SLAs across each one of these different plans. They do have a few differences, where our launch plan has a 99.5% SLA, which again is pretty great, but it goes even higher to 99.9% with our Grow, Scale, and Enterprise model. Our free tier also has that part in there. Now, beyond SLAs, we also provide support, which is essentially, how quickly, if you've got any challenges, any issues, quickly those will be resolved or those will be responded to. That's where you've got your standard packages that you get with all of our plans. But beyond that, you can have our add-ons, which could be your silver support. You could have your gold support, each of which has differing levels of tickets, differing levels of response times, depending on what you need, how mission critical this is, and how quickly you want those turnarounds. Especially from your end user point of view, this will have you covered. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a rundown of our different plans that we've got going for you. Once again, over to you, Jamie, in case I missed out something from an SLA and a plan perspective. Anything on those areas, on those lines?
No, of course, you covered it very well. I guess the thing to emphasize is it's not a short trial. It's a 5-week trial, which is plenty of time, we think, to be able to do some testing of Tyk. You'll be able to have access to everything that's available in Tyk Cloud. If you need longer, we're more than happy to talk to you and arrange a longer trial if your evaluation period takes longer than the already pretty long 5 weeks.
Perfect. Andy, in terms of just coming to you from a customer perspective, from a plans perspective, do you see traction for one over the other, more queries for one over the other potentially, or is it really, really vary depending on what those needs are, and people just choose the one that they want and they go ahead with it?
No, it varies a lot. So there are those clients that want to start small, so they'll perhaps go with launch. Others perhaps need hybrid gateways, and that's going to require that they look at some of those plans over to the right of the screen that you're sharing there. So it varies a lot. We have customers in all of those different plans, and yeah, you can move between them as well. If you start on launch and discover actually your API programs gaining traction perhaps quicker than you expected, you can move plans.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, just as a thing for everyone, this is actually the Tyk Cloud platform that I'm in at this point. And if you want to get a full rundown of this, we've recently done a Tyk 101 session on Tyk Cloud, which, you look at all of the different components, all of the different elements of Tyk Cloud as a product, how you can set it up really, really quickly, how you can actually go ahead and accomplish some key API management activities using this within 30 minutes. So it is that simple for you to get started. That is that simple for you to get up and running with Tyk Cloud as well. So I'm not going to go into the demo today because I think we will save that for another day. And if you are curious, we will be more than happy to share the video recording from a previous session as well. So I'm going to stop our sharing once again and move on over perhaps to our next question. So this was kind of our security element. We've covered our compliance. We've covered our SLAs, a little bit about the plans that you've got in place that would be beneficial for you to understand. I think the next part that comes in is usually around data and how data is being secured here, because obviously there's a lot of things that's going in. Once again, there might be storage of things in terms of data. So the usual curiosities, and maybe a little bit more than curiosities, that come about is around what is being stored, how long is it being stored for. So that is kind of the question here in terms of the key thing that people are looking to get at is whether the data that is being processed or being handled by Tyk or Tyk Cloud in this case specifically is in safe hands. So in terms of things that we are storing, we are looking at obviously from an application perspective itself. From an API calls, API request perspective, you have a lot of control there. So you can enable detailed logging if you so desire. So that will obviously store and log all of the information associated with an API, your payload, your request payload, as well as response payloads in detail. If you do not wish to do that, in most cases, what we are getting with logging is primarily your header information, and that's all that is going to be stored. So you do get some leeway. You do get some options there in terms of what you may or may not want to store from an API perspective. Beyond that, if you're thinking and working with personally identifiable information, you do get that opportunity, the option of data masking. You're essentially obfuscating the data that you may want through the gateway itself. Now, beyond that, there is also storage of certain pieces of information, and maybe Andy or Jamie, either one of you could jump in if you so desire. From a data storage perspective, we do store some user information, of course, the users that are on and using Tyk Cloud as a platform. We are storing, believe that information, analytics information, some metadata information as well that we are going to be storing here, header information. I believe API definitions also are being stored. Keys, policies, things associated with the platform itself, I think those would be stored as well. So I think from a data perspective, things that are being stored within the platform, within storage, I think these would be kind of the key things. Andy, Jamie, anything to add there?
No, absolutely. I think the only other thing to add is as a paid platform, there's obviously payment tokens that we store, but it's kept in a PCI compliant way. So that's secure. I think the thing to emphasize of what you said was that the analytics part that we keep is customizable. So we can store only the URL that's called all the way down through the response payload if you choose. But it's not kept by default, and it's something that you can configure. So I think that's really important, especially if you're dealing with confidential information, then you want to be assured that we're not storing any of that data on our servers. We'd only do it if you configure it to do that.
Yep, perfect.
I think I'd also mention hybrid as part of this discussion as well. So where there are privacy or data sovereignty concerns, that's often sometimes a driver to look at hybrid. And in that hybrid architecture, all of that runtime data need to go nowhere near Tyk Cloud. It's going to be processed through your gateways running in your cloud or your infrastructure. You can be sending the analytics that are generated by your gateways to your own observability platform, should you wish.
Yep, Cool. Absolutely. And I think the extension to that question is, how long are we storing, say, if there is logs available, are there, how long do we store the data for? And I believe the logs are stored for about 14 days and archived after that, I think. Is that the right number?
Yeah,
Jane?
our service logs. Yeah, our service
Service
logs are stored for 14 days. The data that you choose to store for analytics purposes is stored for as long as you have you have space for it. So we manage our analytics data on a rolling basis. So as you fill up your quota, we'll purge the older analytics data and add the new data to it. So there's not a fixed retention period for that. That's really based upon what you log and how often you log, as well as your quota that you get as part of your plan.
Perfect. One other question that came up during our discussions was around, if you've got a specific, so it was a specific scenario. I think we've already covered this a little bit earlier on. The scenario was that it's an e-commerce business that needs to be running out of a couple of different locations around the world. One of which was based in Amsterdam, if I'm not wrong. One of which was based out of Singapore, and the other one was based out of New Delhi, India. And I think the question there was, what kind of configuration, what kind of solution would make the most sense in this kind of a situation? Their base of operations at this point of time is based out of Singapore. So the question there was around, how do we use something like, what kind of deployment pattern would work for us in the most efficient way? Their overall operation team is slightly young in terms of the numbers, so they are looking at something that is going to be quite efficient and easy to manage. So perhaps the solution over there, I don't know, Andy, over there, if you defer in this, I would imagine a hybrid approach over here might be the way to go, where you are looking at Singapore, India, and Amsterdam in this case, where you might be able to have your control plane and a gateway associated in Singapore, which can be fully managed by us. And then for the other two regions with New Delhi and Amsterdam, we could be in the Netherlands, you could very easily have your own local deployments of the gateway and manage that in a hybrid way.
Yeah, so it's a good use case for hybrid. Region that we don't support. Another common one being, which, sorry if I'm jumping ahead here, you might have a question for this, but we sometimes get customers that they like the idea of the reducing TCO using Tyk Cloud, but they have services running in Azure or GCP, and they want a gateway close to those services, and that's another driver for our hybrid cloud architecture.
Yeah.
I think location is one of the factors, and it might tend to suggest a hybrid approach, but for some applications, latency maybe isn't a very strong driver, and in which case potentially the TCO savings of having things managed by us, by our expert teams, could outweigh the downside of not having the gateways as close as possible to the users. So I think taking a more nuanced view about what's the right approach, I think would be the right thing to do.
Absolutely. I think that's a really, really important point there, because obviously with my architectural response there, I think the idea there was to reduce latency as much as possible while still considering the total cost of ownership. But to your point there, if you if latency isn't that big a challenge for you, and you're really looking at your overall cost of ownership and really getting that time to value as quickly as possible, then within those 3 different regions, within those 3 different countries or cities, you could very easily still have Singapore managing both India and Singapore, and maybe even if latency is really not an issue, then maybe managing all 3 regions from Singapore itself. Or you could go Singapore and UK and have those 2 regions being handling all of these different 3 different cities, perhaps. So that could very well be what you go ahead with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about finding the right solution for the customer, and there's no cookie cutter. That's why Andy does such a good job, is finding the right approach for people.
Absolutely. Final question in terms of, well, I think the stability and resilience of the platform, I think, which is around, what happens in case the system goes down. So obviously we spoke about SLAs in case something goes wrong. In that sense, I think we have got these SLAs in place, but equally there might be what we would call disasters. So what happens in terms of disaster recovery? What do we have in place? So I would imagine, I think AWS in itself has its own redundancies built in. We have our own DR plan, which is obviously covered under our SOC 2. We've got backups. I think for Tyk Cloud, every gateway has a backup associated with it. It's not an individual single gateway that we're talking about. We're talking actually about a gateway cluster, which has its own built-in redundancies in there. Any other component that we're talking about within our infrastructure, whether that is Redis, whether that is, the databases, they all have their own individual redundancies built in as well. So from a disaster recovery perspective, the solution in itself is highly available and has those backups in place. But equally, we've got multi-region setups in some cases where to help you with the disaster recovery or the DR process of business continuity, as you would say, for with Tyk Cloud, because we know for a fact that in case something does go wrong, which obviously we always hope it does not, and we've built systems that will not, but you never know, that 0.0001% that you talk about, that may happen, and if that does happen, we need to be prepared for it. So this is the stuff that we've got in place. Once again, Jamie, in case I missed out on something there, in terms of our redundancies that we built in.
Yeah, you've covered all of the things that we provide. There's also the option if for very sensitive applications, some customers could choose to build their own redundancy. So building or deploying Tyk in multiple regions themselves and having failover between them. So if one region goes down, they can transition to another region. So if they want to double down on the disaster planning and the contingency, then that's also an option too.
Got it. Perfect. I think we've got time for maybe one final question. The other question, again, we've spoken a little bit about plans. We've spoken a little bit about cost savings and things like that. But what happens when you're in the middle of a plan and you have exceeded the limits? So we obviously, within plans, there are limits in terms of the number of API calls that you would make, the kind of storage that you have accompanying that, the kind of throughput limitations that you may have. In most cases, that would be enough, but you may have those spikes. You may have those times where you might exceed it. So in what way would we? So what happens when that happens, basically? What is sort of the outcome of exceeding those requirements? Is it something that you automatically roll on? Is it something that you get notified about? What happens when you're exceeding those limits? Maybe Jamie, you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, you are notified about approaching the limits and exceeding the limits. In some cases, for some of the limits, we do take a broader view. So if there's an unexpected spike, we don't always instantly throttle or cut bandwidth. We will make attempts to contact and find a resolution with you. So we're in the business of supporting our customers to offer highly available APIs, and we wouldn't be doing our job if we just cut you off.
Perfect. That's, again, peace of mind, I believe, from a business perspective, because that's the last thing that you would want, where, you've hit that limit, you've hit that threshold, and suddenly, that's it, done, nada, nothing more. So that's something that you don't want, because in most cases, unless it is an attack, which also we are protecting against, if you've got, DDoS attacks happening at any point of time, we do have protection against that. But, if that is not the case, a spike typically means that your business is actually doing well. You've got more traction coming in a short period of time, and we want to be able to support that. We want to be able to be there for you, because that's what we are in the business of. We are in the business of helping you succeed as a business. So that's what we are here to do, and we want to make sure that our plans, our offerings are always in tune to help you to do that. So if you can pre-plan for it, if you foresee that there is going to be a spike, then obviously reach out to us, or upgrade that plan well in advance. But in some cases, when, like Jamie said, you cannot foresee that, then we will notify you when you're hitting specific thresholds. And beyond that, we're not going to be cutting you off. There might be potential charges out there that you might have to look at afterwards, but your business is not going to go down. Your users are not going to get frustrated as a consequence either. So that is our mission. That is what we are here to do.
I think for those foreseeable spikes, so for example, if you're in retail and you might expect actually around about this time of year.
There's Black Friday actually tomorrow. So yeah.
So those sort of things where and it's not just retail, there's other examples of this. I think we do have overages as well, right, Jamie? So that's a little add-on to your normal usage that's covered by your plan for these spikes that you can foresee.
Correct.
Okay. The last thing that I just want to quickly mention to everyone, or anyone who is interested in this, because I think another question that does come up is who else is using it, because that's, again, going to help you make that choice for your business. Because, if you are seeing folks using it and they're in the similar industry, it might be an easier choice for you to make. Right now, I've got a link to our case studies, and I'm going to share that with everyone who attends, who joins, who's registered to this call. The idea there is, again, these are publicly available stories that we've got, and obviously this is not an exhaustive list by any means. There are way more people who are actually working with Tyk Cloud at this point of time, whether it's Tyk Hybrid or Cloud itself. But these are the publicly available ones, so maybe these would resonate with you, whether it's in the financial services industry, whether it is in the marketing technology industry. You've got something there for everyone. So I'm just going to quickly share the screen one final time so that you get a sense of what that looks like on our website. So, okay, I believe you can see this now. I'm going to go back to our home page. And if you look at the top right here, we've got the case study segment. So if you go here and view all, you'll be able to see all of our case studies. These are all of our different publicly available case studies that we've got going right now. And under here, if you look at the product, we've got Cloud. So if you go under Cloud, you'll see our different publicly available case studies here. We've got Branch, where we are looking at GraphQL, actually, fully managed GraphQL on Tyk Cloud. We've got MIQ, we've got Modular, who are in the financial service industry, an example that I gave earlier on. And if you go inside, you've got way more details in each one of them in terms of, who they are, why they are using Tyk, what kind of benefits that they have gotten by using Tyk, and what is it that they're looking forward to in the next phase of using Tyk. So it's fairly comprehensive. Do give it a read if this is going to be something that you want to connect with and get a good sense of what working with us as a team is, as well as working with Tyk Cloud as a product is. So by all means, do that, and then let us know if it resonates with you, if it connects with you, if you've got a use case. Come back to us. We are here to help you out. We are here to help your business succeed and grow. So with that, I think that's kind of the end of all the questions that we have for today. So hopefully this gave you a little bit of value from us trying to give you a good sense of what Tyk Cloud is all about, some of the key benefits of it, some of the measures that we have put in place from a security perspective, from a data privacy perspective, the kind of offerings that we have, the kind of people who are using Tyk Cloud as well in the wild as customers. And hopefully that gave you a bit of peace of mind and encouraged you to either reach out to us or try it out for yourself. So we've got a 5-week trial, as Jamie mentioned. So it's a long stretch of time for you to try it out and really get familiar with the product. And if you've got any issues at any point of time, hopefully you will not. Then obviously we are here to help you out in any and all means possible. So with that, thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you so much, Andy. This has been a fantastic conversation, and I'm looking forward to doing the next one.
Thanks, Peter.
But,
All right, folks. Take care, and until next time, have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
bye-bye.